Welcome back, folks. It's another episode of It's About Payroll. And today we are diving into one of the biggest conversations happening in payroll today. Is payroll simply an administrative function, or is it actually one of the most strategic business functions inside an organization? We're talking executive leadership, compliance risk, AI, of course, employee trust, which is huge now, and why companies that continue to undervalue payroll may be exposing themselves to far more than they realize. And I have this conversation every single day. And there's no better person to have this conversation with than today's guest. She spent her career leading complex global payroll organizations, advising executive teams, and helping organizations rethink payroll as a critical business infrastructure, not just another back office task. She's become one of the strongest voices advocating that payroll deserves a permanent seat at the executive table, while also helping organizations embrace AI responsibly rather than fearing it.
So we're excited to have and welcome our guest, Shala Druin. Did I say that correctly? Pronounce that correctly? Shala is the founder of Strategic Payroll Solutions, a certified payroll professional, former enterprise payroll executive, trusted advisor to CFOs and CHROs, and one of the industry's fastest rising thought leaders. Her work focuses on helping organizations reduce payroll risk, strengthen compliance, prepare for mergers and acquisitions, modernize those payroll operations, and leverage artificial intelligence without sacrificing accountability. If you've spent any time on LinkedIn recently, you've probably seen her challenging organizations to stop treating payroll as overhead and start recognizing it as one of the foundations of business success.
Amen.
Shala, welcome to It's About Payroll.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll start you off really easy. We always ask everybody, what is your payroll origin story? How'd you get started?
I kind of fell in my lap. I was looking for an HR position, and I was hired as a specialist. And I worked with the payroll manager for a bit, and then she quit. And I was the only one who knew how to do it. So they just kind of threw it at me, and I figured it out. And it was kind of from there, I just jumped around and enjoyed being on fire and jumping into risk to big compliance messes, and now I do it on my own, which has been very rewarding.
That's awesome. You have a very interesting message about it not being administrative. It's a business function. What led you to start making that argument?
Well, when I've been working with clients and even throughout my career, I have had to fix some really big issues, things that cost companies hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars.
Yep.
And all of these things could be mitigated just by properly staffing your payroll department, but also, creating proactive processes rather than reactive.
Agreed.
Awesome. So let me ask you then, when executives think about organizational risk, like cybersecurity, legal issues, financial implications, why do you think that payroll often gets overlooked?
I think it's more of human nature, right? Because payroll, when it's functioning properly, it's not exciting. Nothing's happening. You're not winning. There's no instant gratification when everything's going right. It's boring and not how you know it's working. Whereas all of the other departments, they get big wins, and the executive team likes to celebrate, and we need to find ways in which to report our wins, even though it can seem boring. So thinking outside of the box.
I love that. So for leaders listening today, what's the real cost of treating payroll as just payroll?
It's millions of dollars, honestly. And it's your employees. too, because employees will leave if they can't trust that they're going to get their paycheck. Most people are working because they need to get paid. And that is what it is. And if they're not going to get paid, or, if they can't pay their rent on time, then they're going. They're going to leave and go to another company that is, staffing their payroll properly.
That's right.
Absolutely. So what's one thing that you would like for members of the C-suite to truly understand about payroll?
I think that from a business standpoint, it's important to be strategic about your payroll. It has gotten out of control almost because of once COVID hit and remote work became a thing. Global workforces have taken off, right? And even just with throughout the nation. So companies are no longer working within their local community anymore. They're all over the place. And the compliance risk with having different states, different countries, it's huge. And you're talking about, fines and penalties from all over the world. And these things can bring a medium to small business to their knees. And, sometimes it can even land the CFOs in jail if things are incorrectly. So it's really important that you're looking at as a huge compliance liability risk and understanding just how integral and difficult it is to give it to one person and expect them to be able to handle all of that for them.
Get ready to turn up the volume on your HR game. I'm Jay Arnold, former musician turned HR leader and host of Backstage Pass, the HR Rockstar. Each episode pulls back the curtain on key HR topics, from leadership lessons and bold career pivots to the latest in HR tech and talent strategies, featuring the rock stars within their industries. If you're ready to shake up the status quo and amplify your impact, this is your all-access pass. You can catch the show on the Work-Defying Podcast Network and wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe now and let's rock the future of work together.
Yeah. I love what you said. If it's working, it's boring, but that's how you know it's working.
Yeah.
I love that. Switching gears a little bit to compliance, payroll touches everybody in the company. Or I read one person say, all roads lead to payroll. How much of payroll's value is actually about building trust?
Almost all of it. It is truly a trust building thing. And it boggles my mind because most people don't, outside of the payroll department, and maybe some lucky HR people, don't even know how payroll works and all of the laws that go into it and all of the levers that we are pulling to make it happen. And so they automatically trust us to take it over. So I think it's also time for us as payroll people to push back and say, we are taking on all this liability and this risk for the company, so we need to be treated fairly.
Yeah. Agreed. Love it.
You spoke to, you've been speaking to the compliance risks, right? And how large some of those things could be and how impactful they can be. Is there a story that you might be able to share or an example about how payroll became a major business issue or the risk around payroll became an issue?
Yeah, I have a million, but I can think of one recently. A company had came to me because ADP had failed to file their 941 from like 4 years ago. It was actually a couple of years that they failed. And this company was staring at I believe like $2 million
Oh my God.
bill that the IRS was coming for. And they had an actual IRS officer coming to the building and asking for their payment.
Never did.
Nope. And the thing is they had gone through some turnover in their payroll department, so they didn't get the notifications from ADP saying that they weren't going to file their 941, and they just never knew about it. And so what I had to do was work with them in a very short period of time and rebuild all those years to be able to file their 941. But it's things like that, right? Because there was so much turnover and there was only one payroll person in their department, they didn't have time to handle, all of this. And luckily I was able to mitigate those costs quite a bit for the company. If they hadn't have called me, or if they, hadn't have seen it, they would have been in some underwater for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Many payroll leaders struggle to get executive support. Sorry. How should a payroll professional begin having those conversations differently?
I think the biggest way to do it, and I know this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it is to record your mistakes. I know the last thing you want to do is to report every mistake that you've made to the executive team. That can sound scary, but realistically, that's what we need to do.
Yep.
And we need to do so in a way that helps them understand that these mistakes are happening because of whatever reason it might be.
Yes.
Bandwidth, just not enough support from other teams. Another big thing I've noticed a lot is HR can kind of be like gatekeeping. So if payroll sitting under HR and you're going to the CHRO and they're like, oh, well, we will have to get to it later, you really are going to have to go over their head and find a way to advocate for yourself and, get a hold of the CFO, get a hold of the CEO if you can. I think that a lot of payroll people kind of notoriously, we put our head down and roll our sleeves up and do what we got to do. But I think we've gotten to the point now where payroll is so complicated that we need to stop doing that. And we need to start speaking up and finding creative ways to talk to the C-suite, because just saying that we are too busy is not going to fly with them.
Amazing. Walt and I actually literally lived through this at a job we were at together. And that's exactly what we had to do, is document our mistakes. Luckily enough, we were reporting to the CFO. So we had that ear and we had that executive stakeholder that championed the change for us. But, it is a bit probably unnerving for some to say what you just said, to go above HR, right, as the gatekeepers, but you're absolutely right. And I agree.
So, Shala, I want to speak to that. There is another question here, but I want to continue this conversation a little bit, especially for those people that may not know how to start that conversation, that may not even have the confidence, even though they may have the position and the knowledge. What would you say to someone that's struggling to find their voice?
I think the biggest disconnect is that we think that they know what's going on, but realistically, they have no clue. They know whatever the HR person is telling them, and not to, knock on HR people too hard. A lot of times HR executives, their focus is on people and business. Yeah. And this is why I think payroll should be its own department, because while we do focus on people, we are, the compliance risk of the company, a huge one. And so if you go to a CFO and you go to them with the idea that you're going to present to them something that is important for the business and their finances, then you're not necessarily saying, I'm, avoiding the CHRO. I am just going to the CFO with some financial information that I have about the business that I think he should know. And, don't look at it as like you're, trying to throw the CHRO under the bus, because you're not. You're just trying to help the company grow, and you are trying to advocate for yourself.
What if being a leader worth following means being human, imperfect, and open to learning? This is Kate Johnson, owner of 123 Limited, and I want to invite you to discover how to care for, support, and even love the people you lead. Join me every Tuesday for the Well-Led Podcast.
I love that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now back to the original question that I have for you. So let's say that you just became CEO, right? You suddenly just became CEO. What would be the first change that you would make in regards to payroll and compliance risk?
I think support is the biggest thing. making sure that you have enough people to handle what's going on and vetting your people. There's a lot of people who say they know how to do payroll, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Other thing is making sure that you understand how payroll works and how it can affect you and your business.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
Switch gears here a little bit. AI is always dominating more than we want conversations, the day in, day out. What excites you most about AI?
I've actually been playing with it quite a bit. I have a lot of fun with it. And I've been able to create a auditing agent for payroll. And I've implemented it in 2 different companies now, and it's been working very well. So
Nice.
the cool thing is that it cuts down processing time probably in half, because I'm sure most of us are just running tons of reports, comparing reports and
Mhm.
comparing the previous payroll. And what this does is it does all that for you and presents you all of the information. But again, it has to be looked at by a person who understands the data and understands the data they're inputting and the data that's being output, because AI gets lazy. These agents, they skip steps, and you have to be able to catch them.
I love
Awesome.
that. So
God.
on the flip side, Shayla, you spoke to what excites you the most and how you've been using that, right? Is there anything that scares you most about AI?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. It is that it's lazy and it hallucinates. It makes mistakes. People can rely on it too much, and the data that it spits out, it might look good, but if you're auditing, 1,000 employees and you're asking it to do that and just taking it for what it is, you're gonna make huge mistakes, and it's gonna come out in the end. But if anything, that's also exciting for me because give me lots of business.
How
I
do
love that. All right.
so it's a good point, right? And basically the AI doesn't own the liability, right? Payrolls
Right.
people do. How do payroll pros make sure that they're doing what you say? Like they're trying to build tools. Is there any tips that you can give them? Like, okay, make sure you're doing the following things to avoid the laziness, avoid the hallucination.
That thing.
Okay.
Test it over and over and over again. Like, even if you think that it's working perfectly, keep testing it and
Okay.
find a way to have checks and balances. Put in your own errors and make sure that it's finding the errors that you're
I like
entering
that.
in. And, you can use it to correct itself, which is also another fun thing to do. So,
I like that. Thank
I
you.
like that.
Yep.
yeah.
I like that because even when we were going through the process of building our own app, one of the coders kind of said that they were going to do everything in their power to try to break the code and break it to make sure that it worked properly, right? So I kind of, when you said that, it kind of resonated with me because we've been through that process, right? So you should definitely test the system and make sure that there are no loopholes, because sometimes we think that just because it's doing one function properly, there may be another loophole or something that we are blind to that may be causing or opening us up to a compliance risk or something, right?
Absolutely.
And this,
So
I'm sorry, Walt, and this may be
go ahead.
obvious to some, but this is not something that you're trying to do when you're in that processing window. Clearly, you need to build this, all right, outside. You're not in the window, and that payroll's not on the deadline. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So what are you expecting for the payroll professional? I guess in other words, in the next 5 years, what do you see changing for payroll professionals?
I think that payroll is going to continue to get more and more complex. I see a lot of changes in labor laws in different countries or different states, sorry, are starting to really implement some good laws for employees. So I do foresee that, but I think that the biggest thing is going to be training, because once AI starts, really taking what we're going to start losing a lot of the in the trenches kind of learning that we have all experienced. And we're going to need to be able to bring forth, the next generation of payroll people without, having maybe a specialist or, those people who are data entry type positions. And so I think there's going to be a lot of teaching. And I hope that people will start advocating for themselves. And I'm I'm pushing for a CPO position. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. For the teams that feel overwhelmed by all that with the AI, where should they start?
Well, I do offer AI training,
Ooh.
and you can find that on my website. So I can come in and I help payroll teams learn how to implement AI into their
Amazing
procedures. But
awesome.
if your company doesn't have the budget for that or the bandwidth, it kind of sucks to say this, but you're going to have to do it outside of your work hours because we just don't have time. I know as a payroll person, you never have time, but AI is here and it's not going anywhere. Everybody's investing in it. So just spend a couple hours a day playing with it. You can even ask it, what can I use you for? And it'll give you, some ideas.
It's right.
I want to take a break real quick just to let you know about a new show we've just added to the network. Up Next at Work, hosted by Gene and Kata Keel of the Devon Group. Fantastic show. If you're looking for something that pushes the norm, pushes the boundaries, has some really spirited conversations, Google Up Next at Work, Gene and Kata Keel from the Devon Group.
So we've spoken on AI on the show like many a times, right? It's always a topic of conversation. And Brian was kind of the first one that ever said that he thinks that eventually there's going to be payroll pilots, right? Where AI is doing a bulk of the smaller things, the smaller duties that are simpler. And then you may have a payroll person there to just I guess, guide AI through that process. So that leads me to my next question, right? So do you think that AI, obviously it helps elevate payroll, but do you think it's going to impact executives' thinking and make them determine or make them decide to say that, hey, AI is so good, we can use fewer people now?
No, I'm already seeing this. And I was working with a client who actually was telling their payroll person that asking them why things were taking so long because they now have AI, and had to explain to them that, not only does your payroll person need to figure out how to use AI, they need to figure out what they can use it for. And I asked them, what can they do? Right? What are they going to use it for? And they weren't able to answer the question. But I think a lot of executives are just expecting people to figure it out, whereas it's just not possible. And
It's a good call out. Yep.
I think it's way too early too in the inception of AI to start, relying on it so heavily. But to your question, in the future, I definitely see it taking on a lot of the grunt work that we currently have. And when people are actually able to spend time and vet processes and create processes and procedures, absolutely, I think it'll be a great thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Love that answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to switch it up here. We got a little bit of a lightning round and we'll go one by one here. Give me one payroll myth you'd love to eliminate.
Well, payroll doesn't live off of fiscal years and deadlines.
Yes.
Yes. I love that one. Spot on.
Okay. So give me one technology that every payroll leader needs to understand.
AI, I think.
One leadership habit that separates great payroll leaders from just good ones.
Mm-hmm. Advocating for your teammates. Remember that.
I like that.
I love that. Okay, I need you to put your prediction hat on and give me one payroll prediction that we're going to see by the year 2030.
2030.
And not far away.
No, I think we're going to see a executive payroll position.
Oh, so
I love that.
Perfect segue. One piece of advice to someone wanting to become a payroll executive.
Advocating for yourself, keeping all of your documentation. Somebody close to me always said a documentation leads to conversation. So always, crack those mistakes that you're making and crack the mistakes that happened because HR came too late or whatever it may be. And present them. Think outside the box for sure, and try to, when you're advocating yourself, do it in a way that is advantageous to the people you're advocating to.
Love it. Of course, thank you for that. There's great answers. We'll switch gears again here. We play this game called This or That. I'm going to give you three, both, neither, one of them. Doesn't matter. Just gives folks a way to get to know you beyond payroll. Seahawk, the Seattle Seahawks or Seattle Mariners?
I don't do sports anymore.
Neither. Early bird or night owl?
Well, I'm an early bird, but that's just because I have kids.
Yeah, gotcha. Remote work or in office?
Remote.
Yep, gotcha.
I have to say, like, Shala is just so quick,
Might be the quickest interview we've ever done.
Oh,
yeah. So, Excel or AI prompt?
Yeah, that's going to depend on what it is you're doing.
Okay, so would you prefer a mountain or beach vacation?
So I live in Port Angeles, which is mountains and beach. So I should go both.
Yeah, no doubt. It's awesome.
Of course. Yes. All right. Last one. Do you prefer a great book or a great movie?
Great book.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So
what's one thing most people would never guess about you, Shala?
I was born and raised on the East Coast in the city between Jersey and New York. So back and forth all the time. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nice.
So
we're going to end it out. We thank you so much. Before we go, we have a quote of the day. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. Sheryl Sandberg. Love that.
Right. Shala, this has been fantastic. Hopefully we can have you again. You have an open door here because I would love to dive deeper on some of the things that we touched on. So before we close this out, for the listeners that want to connect with you and work with you, what do they need to do?
You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can also visit my website, which is strategicpayrollsolutions.com.
Love it. Shala, thank you so much for joining us today and for everything you're doing to elevate payroll. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, share, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend, and let people know payroll is not just cutting checks. Until the next time, keep learning.
Keep leading.
And remember, it's about payroll.
It's about payroll.
Thank you so much, Shala. We appreciate you.